Now, just to give a brief what we were doing yesterday, we were trying to discuss about the fundamentals of programming along with the setup of the environment. So I told you about two things, the Anaconda, in which there was a Jupyter notebook. I explained you the working of that, the basic working of that, and the Colab, the Google Colab, which was an online environment which you can use and you don't need to install that on your local system. That is what we saw yesterday. Now, in this case, today I have to give you few of the more introduction about those things, how Jupyter works and what all things you can do. So yesterday we saw that you could add the text also, you could add the code also, and you can have the headings and everything properly mentioned in the Jupyter notebook. Now we'll continue on that point forward. Let's see what else we can do. So I was explaining about this headings, and headings we have understood that whenever you have to give a heading, you basically use hash symbol like this. So if you have to write the heading, first you need to convert this cell into markdown by clicking here. You clicked here and you selected the markdown. And after selecting on the markdown, you basically need to just have these hash symbols using which you will be able to give the headings. So yesterday we were trying to give the heading, which was Python programming. And inside here, you will notice that this is a heading. And after heading, you can have the text, you can have that code, whatever you want to write, you can have that. What is the purpose of this heading? The purpose of this heading is to make your Jupyter notebook as informative as possible, so that whenever you look at the code at any time later in the future, or you give it to someone, you share it with someone, they can understand properly what things are mentioned. You can properly document your code. Every steps can be properly presented. So this was the heading. Now in heading, what we saw was if you give one hash, it is going to give the biggest heading. If you want to reduce the size of this heading, you start increasing the hash there. You start adding those. Now, once I have this two hash, it becomes little smaller. If I have three, becomes little smaller. If I have four, even smaller. If I have five, even smaller. But with fifth, it will become little bit italic. So from 1 to 4, it is basically going to reduce the sizes. These were the headings. Now, whenever you have to give the main heading, you will use the biggest one. If you have to give subheadings, you decrease the size of the headings by putting more hash symbols. This was about the heading. So I'm just giving you today more idea about this Jupyter notebook. For now, you can just take a look at it. Main code when we'll do, you can follow that along with me. Then there is something called as block code. It is what? It is considered to be a sub-article or a specialized section. So if you're talking about a particular topic, you were explaining a particular topic and you're writing about that thing. So what you need to do is that you want to add more sub-article kind of thing. So in that sub-article part, what you can do, you can use a block code to mention that this is sub-article of the main article. How do you do that? So in this case, let's say we are writing a text. So in this case, whenever you have to write a text, first you need to convert a cell from the code to markdown. And how do you make a cell? We were discussing that you go to any of the cell and below it, you want to create a cell. You just click on this plus icon. Once we click on this plus, it will create a cell for us. And by default, this cell will be asking some code to be written. So by default, code you will write. But if you want to write a text, you will select the cell. You can see it, this one is highlighted. You'll come here and click on markdown. You click on markdown, it will be converted from a cell to some type in which the code, the other things can be written. The text, the images, the URLs, everything can be written. Now, how do you make a text? So we just say this is a statement. Then we write this is a statement. Okay. And once we have these two statements, after which you can have this symbol. This is a sub article. Now you can see what has happened with this. You have two of the statement in proper one line. These are the main statements you can say. And you have made a block code by this symbol. And whatever you put it, it will be a part of that statement, whatever you're writing about. So it will become very easy for you to explain some of the topics that you want to explain properly. This is called a block code. So nothing is there. You just need to include this symbol and you need to write that text. Just take a look at it. Included a symbol and then you have to put a space, and after that, whatever statement you write, it will be just shifting down to the right side a little bit. This was the block code for us. After the block code, the next concept is the highlighting of the text. How we do the highlighting of the text is this. So Python, first we will try to convert this into a markdown. So there is a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut to convert a cell into markdown. And that shortcut is escape plus M. So when you press escape button and plus M, together with that M, you click on that, and you are going to convert that code cell into a markdown. Now we have this, and here we need to just have, let's say Python is most preferred language for data science. So let's say we are saying this, Python is the most preferred language for data science. Now, if I have to highlight a particular text, it can be one word, it can be multiple words. How do we do that? So the process of doing that would be just to add backticks. What is the backticks? Just below the escape button, you will see an option of a symbol. And with that symbol, you're going to notice that this will be highlighted. Correct? Now, there is another way to highlight a text, that is to make it bold. Once you can just add a background, a grayish background, the next you can do is to make it bold. So what you do just now, you can take this and you can put it here. Now you put that into these symbols, these star symbols. And once you put that into star symbols, it will be in bold format. Now, why we are trying to do this? Because this notebook gives us these flexibilities, these options to make our code much better for understanding. So we need to make a proper use of these things if they have been given to us. Now, in this case, some things we have talked about. If I have to make a list here, correct? So if I have to make a list, let me show you. There are two type of lists basically that you can make. If you're writing down something, and for that you have multiple topics you need to write 1, 2, 3, 4 inside a main topic, you can do that by making list. And list can be of two types. One will be ordered, where you will give numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 or A, B, C, D. Second type will be unordered, where you just give dots or stars or any symbol like that. Now, to make unordered list, let's see what we do. So you can say this is a main statement, and inside here you want to make a list inside. So you say item 1. Just a minute, 1 minute. Okay, now you say this is your item 1. And as soon as you write this item 1 or something, it will just be highlighted to make you understand that this is being made into a list. And then you can say it is item 2. And then you can say it is item 3. Like this, you create an ordered list of items. If you want to create unordered list of items, then you just have the same things. You can say this is the, first you convert this into a markdown, and then you say this is the main statement. Just this last thing I want to show you. And in here we have item 1, and we have item 2, and we have item 3. Now, what is this? This is an ordered list for you. So if you want to explain a particular topic in which subsections are there, subtopics are there, you can explain that using the list. So in the ordered one, you have numbers like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in unordered list, you have these dashes. So instead of dashes, you can use either star also or plus symbol. The minus symbol I've used. Instead of that, you can use plus. That will also do the same thing. Or you can use the star. Anything you can use. All of them are going to give you an ordered list of items. Now, the last one to show you here is the images. If you have to use images, what you do in that case. So to make the images, again, it's very simple. Let's go through that. And in the image, the first thing you can do is you need to convert this again to Markdown. So why are we converting this into Markdown? So if something is not code, all of that will go into the section of Markdown. When you want to write some code here, some Python code, by following the proper syntax, then you keep this cell into the code mode. And if you want to add something else, the text, the URLs, all the list and everything, what you do, you just convert it to Markdown. Now, once you have converted it to Markdown, you need to search for Python image. Whatever images you want to put up, you can have that. If you're making a project and for that project, you have a roadmap you have created or any other flow chart you have created, you can upload it here so that you can explain it properly to someone that this is the flow chart we have followed to create this project. Now let's take any of these symbols, any one of that we can use, and I will just open it up in new tab. Now it's a image file. How do I bring this image file into my notebook here? Let me show it to you. So you just need to copy this address. Copy this address of this image. Once you have copied this address, you will come here and you need to write this symbol, exclamation mark. Then you need to write a text that what is this image for. So this image is for Python. Any name you can write, but you will write a name that would be understood to someone. Then you have a bracket, and inside the bracket you paste the link. Correct? And when you run this, you're going to notice that image has been taken from there and it has been put it here. For you to understand, any image like this you can bring from the internet, from any website, you can bring it here. But if you're taking a copyrighted image, make sure you give the credit somewhere below if you're putting it up for public to see, or any of the platforms like LinkedIn, GitHub. If you're putting on those platforms, you need to give the credits of that image to the person. You just need to write in at here bottom that credit, and you mention the website link that from here I have taken the images. Correct? Now, this is the first method to bring in your image. Just take a look at it. I have exclamation mark. Then I put up this square bracket inside which I have written a Python, the text, and then in the round brackets, I have given the location of that image on the internet. The second easy way to bring any of the images is I first convert a cell into Markdown. Then what will I do? I will go here and just try to drag and drop it. I drag it, I come here and just drop it. And this will also do the same thing. It's an easy way to drag and drop any images and put it up here. Correct? So you can follow any of the approach, whatever feels better to you, more comfortable to you, you can follow that approach. Now, this was the idea about the Jupyter Notebook. Some idea I have given you yesterday, and the rest of the thing we have talked about today. Correct? So now you can go through it, and whenever you have to do something, you can follow those things. But one more thing, let me tell you that if you have made a heading, likewise, you will create multiple headings. And to identify the headings and subheadings, what you can do the coloring of these headings also. You can give different colors. So if you want to give colors to this, what you need to write is, you will be writing here font color is equal to this in text, you have a blue. So notice here, I have created this format. Font color is equal to, in the text, blue. Blue, it is already there, so I should have maroon. And then at the end of it, I'll again have this slash font. Now, if I run this, what you will notice that earlier it was in blue color, but now it is in maroon color. Likewise, you can have any colors you want to put it up here, and that way you will be able to make it more presentable. So if I use cyan, it will be cyan. If I use magenta, that will be also happening. Magenta. That will also be done for you. Yeah, it is not CSS, it is a HTML part. So this markdown that we are studying, it's a part of that HTML whole concept of that. Okay, yeah, exactly same thing you need to write here. That font color and something you write, it's the same thing that you do. Now, we have understood this thing also, and here our introduction to Jupyter Notebook has completed. We'll move forward now to the concept of Python. Some fundamental concepts we were studying yesterday. I gave you a proper introduction about the variables yesterday and how to create the variables. What is the concept of whole variables we were discussing yesterday. So before discussing about the variables, I told you about literals. Literals are the data which convey some information. So data can be any numbers. It's the latest version of the Python. I think one version before the latest one, 3.11, I think is the latest one. So one version before that I'm using. 3.10, 3.9, it might be. Now, this literal is a data type. It's a data type. So how is a literal going to look like? It just conveys some information. So that information we see in this Python programming language will be in a format of one of these, the basic format. It will be an integer. It might be a float value. It might be a text, or it might be a Boolean data, which looks like this. True, false is kind of a Boolean data in Python. Then we were talking about what are variables. So I explained you variable is a container in our memory where we store some data and then we give the name to that container so that we can identify in this container, I have put up this data. We were talking about those scenarios. And then we discussed about the rules to create the variables. So those who joined today, you can go through the yesterday's session. It will be very informative for you. Even if you know the programming, a bit of programming, you will learn obviously something new. Okay, I've discussed about the proper fundamentals of the Python, how Python works, how it creates variable, how it stores data. I've discussed about that. Okay, so we were creating about a variable. Variable looks like this. You write a name and write is equal to and a value. You put it up. That is the whole concept of variables. Now we'll move forward and try to understand a little bit more about the Python. This is the where we start. Now, we discussed about literals and variable. The next thing to understand in Python is there are some basic rules in Python you need to follow. What are those basic rules? The first thing is there is a concept of indentation. And indentation is a very important thing in Python that you need to follow very properly. If you don't follow the indentation properly, then what will happen? Your code is going to get false and it will not run properly. Second concept is you don't put punctuations at it. I'll explain you how indentation matters and where it will be used. The second rule is we don't use any punctuations at the end of this statement. So when you have to print anything, so you just have to write print Python and you just run it. You don't add any dot here. You don't add any of these things. And also this thing is not required. This is one of the things you add in C or C++ language to complete a particular statement, but you don't have to add it here. It will work, but it is not required in Python. So you just need to write whatever you want to execute, that straightforward statement, nothing extra, and your task will be done. That is the second rule. You don't have to put any punctuations at the end of the statement. No dot, no comma, no semicolons, no colons, anything like that. Again, then the third one is the Python programs are considered to be case sensitive. What do we mean by case sensitive? So if I create this print, and when we say Python, it is going to execute. But when I say this print in capital P, what will happen? It will give us error that I don't know what print is. It is saying name error, name print is not defined. So Python is basically saying, I don't know what is this print thing. I have not seen this before. So Python concepts are, Python programs and all of the tools are there. They are considered to be case sensitive. So you need to be very careful about those things. But if you have done any mistake by chance, so Python in Jupyter Notebook, you will see an error being printed to you, and you can easily go through this error, and there will be a proper marking to that error. It will point in which line where you have done an error. You can go to that place, you can fix that. So if you take a notice, you have a proper arrow given here. With this arrow, it is telling there is a line number 1 where you have given a mistake. What is the mistake? There is a name error mistake. Name print is not defined. That is the mistake. So when you see this error, you will go to print and you will see what error you have done, and you will be able to fix that problem. So that everything will be given to you very properly by the Python, all of the things that you have done. The next thing to understand is writing comments in Python. We understood by making some rules are there. If we have to write comments in Python, what we do in that? Now, what is comment? You might ask first. So if you're new to programming, you might not have seen or you might not know the concept of comments, but there is something called as comments. What it is a plain text, which is written in such a manner that it is going to be ignored by the Python. It will not be considered as a code, but whatever text is there, we'll be able to see that. What is the purpose of those comments? Let me explain it to you. So now you make a variable that is called first name is equal to this. Correct? I have created a variable. Now, if I have to tell someone who might see my code, who might read my code, any other developer, what I will do, I will add a comment on the top of it. Correct? I'll add a comment at the top of it. How to add the comment? You have to put a hash. When you put a hash, you can say creating a variable first name. Creating a variable first name. And what is this? This is considered to be something called as a comment. Now, comment is present here. It will not be executed. This statement does not execute, but it will be there for anyone to see. Okay, you tried to create a variable, this name, first name. This is the variable. So you can mention that. Now, why is this needed? In here, in this Jupyter Notebook, you are saying that you have the option to include the text in one of the cells, but you don't have these options in other of the those environments. Like you talk about PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, any other environment is there. You don't have the option to completely write this code, something like that. So what developers do, how do you explain their code, what they have done? They write comments like this. Correct? So this is the thing. So this is just to tell any other developer what you are trying to do. It's called a comment. Now this comment can be in one line, it can be in multiple lines also. 2-3 lines also, you can have a proper comment. So if you want to explain in little bit more detail what are you trying to do in this cell, what is the code you're trying to write, you can explain that in multiple lines. So if you want to explain something in multiple lines, you can have multiple hash symbols and you can continue your statement here. Or the next thing you can do is you can have a paragraph. You can have a paragraph that will also be treated like a comment. How do you write a paragraph? Paragraph, you can consider it as a multiple line comment instead of just single line. So to write that, you write that inside this pair of triple quotes. You have 3 quotes on the left side and 3 double quotes on the right side. And in the middle of this, you can say, this is a multiple line comment. You can say something like this. Name. But it will not happen in here. If you try to do this, creating a variable first name or anything you can say, and last name. So you want to explain this, let's say in multiple lines. So what will happen? You will not be able to explain that. Correct? So it is now considering this thing as a code, a normal text. So what you want to do, if you want to convert this into a comment, then you can add a second hash symbol just before this word. Correct? And if you want to do the same thing, you want to write multiple line comments, you can put that this second part. Let's move forward. This was the concept of comments. Now, the next thing I was explaining you yesterday, that there is a rule. When you create a variable, there is a rule that you can't use the keywords as the name of the variable. That was one very important rule. I've also told you about few of the keywords which you can't use as a variable. So what we were saying, let's say if I have to create a number, so I say number is equal to 10. This is my variable. But now there is a keyword if. If I say if is equal to 10, it will give me error that this is a syntax error. It's not a proper syntax. What does this mean? That it is not allowed. Whatever you're trying to do, not allowed, because you're trying to use a keyword which is reserved for some specific purpose. Now to see the list of all the reserved keywords that I can't use to name my variable is this list. Just take a look at it. You have false, none, true, and, as, assert, async, await, all of those things. You have pass, raise, return. Don't need to remember this, but with practice, you will get to know about all of the reserved keywords which are there. One very easy way to find out if you're writing any word, is that a reserved keyword or not? You can see that it will be in bold green color. So if I, let's say, use none, if I'm trying to write a variable name, none is equal to 10. What is happening now? This text is automatically being converted into bold green color. When you see this in bold green color, you can easily identify that, okay, this is a reserved keyword. And if you see something in the faded green color, like print, that also you don't have to use. Correct? So this thing might run sometime, might work sometime, but also if you see any word in green color, you don't use that for variable names. That is the concept of keywords. So keywords are reserved word that has some specific task. We will see that in future sessions. What is their task? What is the work of false and true, if, elif, all of those things you are seeing here. What is the task of them? I'll explain them one by one. Now, the next thing is there is something called as identifier. Now, identifier is a collective name given to some of the concepts in programming. So if I talk about Python in general, you have something called as variables. And we discussed about that variables yesterday. Then the next thing you have is a function. And the next thing you have is called a class. These are 3 things you are going to use very frequently for Python programming: a variable, a function, and a class. Variables, we discussed yesterday that it is a container in which you store the value. Function is also a container which has some code, not just one value. That also I'll be explaining. And class is also a very interesting and very important concept. Now, when you have these 3 things, there is a common name given to all of this, which is called identifiers. This is a common name given to this. So when you say identifier, you mean one of these things. Now, what are we trying to see here? The rules we have seen for creating the variable name, that same rule will be applied to create a function name and to give a class name also. We have seen that what? We can use lowercase letters, uppercase letters, numbers and only one symbol, that is underscore. This was the first rule. To give any name, we can use this. The second rule was we can use the characters, we can use the digits, we can use underscore, but our variable name can't start with a number. It can have a number, like this can be a variable num1 is equal to 10, but I can't say one num is equal to 10. My variable name can have numbers, this one is fine, but it can't start with a number. That was the second rule. The third rule was keywords can't be used as an identifier. You can't use those reserved keywords to give a name to the variable, to name a function, to name a class. Correct? And apart from underscore, no other symbol can be used. You can't say num @1 is equal to 10. You can't use these symbols, or you can't use dollar symbol. Any other symbol apart from underscore, you can't use. Now, the name of this identifier can be as big as you want to be, but you don't give a very long name. It will be difficult for anyone to keep note of. But you can have a bigger name if you want for any particular reason. So we're talking about that. This is an identifier. Now in identifier, we have discussed about the variable, function, and class. We'll discuss later. But you need to remember that these rules will be followed there also. Now, the next thing was, I also explained that there is a concept of interpreter and compiler. So what Python actually does is, Python is a dynamically typed language. What does this dynamically typed language is? Let me explain it to you. See here. In Python, I can do this thing. If I say num is equal to 10, or if I say var is equal to 10, I can say in the same cell, I can give a different value to that particular variable. I can say var is equal to 20.5. Again, I can say var is equal to 5. And also I can say var is equal to true. If you try this thing in C or C++ language, it will give you error when the compilation of that is going to happen. So now why this happens? Because Python is a dynamically typed language. In this case, what happens is the concepts are going to execute one by one. Whatever code you have written, it is going to execute one by one. So first it will see this line, it will do that task. Then it sees this line, it will do this task. So if you are saying var is equal to 20.5, when you come to this second statement, what will happen? The first value, that was var is equal to 10, will be simply deleted, will be simply replaced with a new value. Then you can have var is equal to Python. As soon as you give the third value, the second value also will be removed for this variable var. When you give the fourth value, then also it is going to delete the last one. So it is going to happen just because of the reason that our Python is a dynamically typed language. That is the concept. Correct? JavaScript, I don't remember. I've not done much of JavaScript. Okay. Now, this Python is that thing. Basically, C, C++, and Java does not support this thing, but Python can support this thing. These three will not support. If you try to give same variable and multiple values, if you try to give in one of the files, it will not allow that. But in Python, it allows that. Now, the next thing is, if we have to give a variable any value, what we can do, we can either say num1 is equal to 10, you can say num2 is equal to 20, and you can say num3 is equal to 30. You can say this, or there are other options also. What you can say now, you can say num1 comma num2 comma num3 is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30. So what I have written in this cell and this cell, both are same. They are both going to do the same task of assigning values to the variables. When I run this and when I run this, both is going to do the same task. So either you can follow this approach to create multiple variables, or you can follow this approach to give any particular variable. If I want to do this task, if I want to give the same value to all of them, then what will happen? Then what you can do, you can say num1 is equal to num2 is equal to num3 is equal to 10. You're going to do this when you want to give same values to multiple variables like this. You're going to follow this. I've run this. This is going to work. After this concept, this was assigning multiple variables in the same line of code. This was the concept. So these two lines you need to see. The cell number 19, cell number 18. The next concept in Python is type conversion. How do you do the type conversion? What is type conversion? You can convert one type of data into another type of data. So how do we do that? If I write here 10, what is 10? 10 is an integer type value. But what I want to do is I want to convert this 10 into the text format. Correct? Text format. So you can check that what is this type of value. It will say integer. It's an integer value. We understand. But if I want to convert this 10 into a text, what I will say? I will say str10. Correct? Now what it will do, it will just put that into quotes. And if it put that value into quotes, it will just basically convert any of the number into a text. So what you can do, you can convert any data. If you have 10, if you have 100, you just need to put that into quotes. Now, earlier it was a number. As soon as you put the quotes, it become a string data type. String means text data type. So this is one type conversion. We are forcefully converting the type of the data. Let's say I have 20.5. This 20.5 is a float data. And you can check that also by writing this type is equal to this float data. Now what you can do, you can say we want to have integer 20.5. So what it will do, it will take this float value and it will forcefully try to convert that float value into integer. And this concept is called type conversion. So you can convert a number into text, you can convert a float into integer, you can convert an integer into float. Anything you want to do, you can do. It's a type conversion. Why are we saying something like this? It will be very important once we move forward and we take input from the user. This thing will be very important for us. And we'll talk about that in tomorrow's session only. Type conversion. Correct? Yeah, you can say that typecasting is the same. Now, the next concept here is in the fundamental of Python, the next concept is operators and expression. These are the basics we are talking about. There are some operators, there are some expressions that we use to do some tasks. What we can do with this? We can do some calculations by the use of this operators and expressions. Now, what are the operators and what are the expressions? We'll try to understand. Now, let's see. The first type of operators are arithmetic operators. There are multiple type of operators we'll be seeing in all the programming languages. It is not just for specifically Python. This thing will happen in all the programming languages. We have arithmetic operators, we have logical operators, we have identity operators, assignment operators, membership operators, and bitwise operators. Some of them are specific to Python and some of them are going to work in all of the programming languages. Let's understand what they are. Now, what we do in the arithmetic operation. In arithmetic operation, we do the operations of plus, minus, multiplication, division, floor value, exponential, and modulus. These are the things we are going to do. Now let's see what they do for us. In this case, I just take a number 1 is equal to 10. And I again take number 2 is equal to 20. What I can do with this, I can say print number 1 plus number 2. One statement. If I run this, what it will do? It will just add these variables. Whatever value you have in this variable, just normal adding. Likewise, you can have multiple of the other things you can perform. So you can have this num1 plus num2, you can have num1 minus num2. So what num1 minus num2, 10 minus 20, it is going to do, it will give us value 10. Next thing, you can multiply the two values. These are very simple concepts, the very basics of programming. So understand it very properly. When you do num1 into num2, just multiplication of the values in these two variables. If you do num1 division num2, you're going to get this division. So 10 divided by 20, you're going to get 0.5. These are the basic operations. Now, little bit modification of these operation is this double, this. What is this? This is a floor division. What does this floor division does? If you're trying to divide, let's say, let me say I have 7 and I have 3. Correct? What is a normal division going to do? A normal division will give us a value like this, 3.5. If you try to divide 7 by 2, you get 3.5. But this floor division actually tried to give you a value in the integer format by ignoring this float format. The float data point, which is there, 0.5, it is going to ignore that and it will just show you the integer part of that. And that is done using double slash. That is a floor division operator. The next one is you have double star. What is this double star? This double star is the raising to the power. So when we have said num1 double star num2, so what is num1? 7. And when we say double star, we say that raise it to power of whatever is there in num2. So if I had taken num1 is equal to 10 and I had taken num2 is equal to 5, what will this do? It will take 10 raised to the power of 5. Whatever is the answer, it will give us that answer, raising to the power of the something. Correct? Power is a function that will do the same task, but it's a easier version of that. Power is also something that you're talking about a power keyword or function, something like that, or you're asking what power is. This is exponential operator. Exponential operator is raising something to the power of some value. Power is also one of the kind of function in some of the programming languages. What power does is when you use that, you can do the same task which is done by this exponential. Correct? Now, that is the thing. The last one is print and num1. This is our modulo operator. What is this modulo operator going to do? It will give us the remainder of any of the operations. So if I do 7 divided by 2, so 2 is going to divide 7, not completely, but it will give us a remainder of 1. Whatever remainder it gives us, that remainder, it will give it back, that remainder. So now, where can we use this thing? If you have to check, if you have to make a program and you want to check whether a number is even or odd. So what you can do, you can divide two numbers and you can check if the remainder is 1, it will be odd value. But if remainder is 0, it will be even number. There you can use it. And I'll show you those examples also. But this is actual use case of these arithmetic operations. It looks very simple, but they have lots of use cases once we move forward into the next concept. This was the introduction about the first type of operators, which was arithmetic. Let's see what next operators tell us. The next operator is called logical operator. What is the work of logical operator? The work of logical operator is to give something. You might have seen this in gate concept in your physics, the AND gates, OR gates, those kind of thing you might have seen. So logical operator in Python has these three concepts: AND, OR, and not. These three things are there. Now, how does these three things work? You will have basically two of the equations. Two expressions will be there, and that expression will result into true or false. So let's say I'm saying 10 is greater than 3. This is a concept I have written. This is the expression I have written. What will happen? This will tell me true. And if I say -5 is equal to 0, is -5 equal to 0? False. So sometimes what we will require to do is we will require to do a comparisons like this. When we do comparisons like this, you are going to get the values true and false. So in the case, I can combine these two of these expressions. I can say this also is going to happen, this also is going to happen. And after doing this thing, you are going to get a final value. So there is the use of this and, or, and not. Correct? Let's say I want to say this concept. If is one of the keyword, what it does, it helps us make the conditional statement. I will explain conditional statement properly, but I'm trying to give you some idea where is this logical operator is going to. So now you have taken a number and you are checking if the number is greater than 10 and that number is less than 15. If this thing is there, if you have put up a condition like that, what is a condition? Condition is like a gate, a blockage. When you cross this gate, you're going to get some value. You're going to get some statement that you will print, you will execute. So I have written a condition, and where I can use this and, or, and not to evaluate these conditions together. What we can say now, let's say our num is 11. So our num is 11. What we do, we check whether num is greater than 10. It will tell me true. And this number is less than 15. It's also true. So you are going to get basically true and false value. When we try to do something based on conditions, we'll have the comparisons like this. What are you going to get with these comparisons? There are some things you need to understand. What are those things? Let me explain that to you. Have you understood what I was trying to give you an idea? If you know about programming, you might understand. If you're new to it, you will understand this properly. You will be also able to understand this. 1 minute. I'll talk about that. See, first we need to understand about AND. What happens with AND? So in the case of AND, let's say we have one condition that is giving me true, and the second condition also gives me true. So final output will be true. Okay, true and true is equal to true. If I have one condition that is true, second condition is false, what will I get final? False. If I have the first one as true and I have second one, if I have first one as false and second one is true. So here also I'll get a false. And if the first one is false, second one is false, then also I'll get a false. This is the condition of AND. So when this AND is going to work, when it is going to successfully execute the statements, when both of the conditions are true. Like I was writing num greater than 10 and num less than 15. If both of them are fulfilling the criteria, if both of them are true, then that if condition is going to run. Otherwise, that is not going to run. That code I have written with if keyword, that is not going to execute. So only one case is there. If both of them is true, then only it will be true. The case with OR is, it will be just opposite of that. So the case of OR is like, when you have true and true, you'll get a true in the case of OR. If you have true and false, you'll get a true. When you have false and true, you're going to get a true. And when you have false and false, you're going to get a false. So there is only one condition where our task will not run, where a particular code will not run, when both of the conditions are false. And the last one is not. What does not do? You can say not true. Not true means false. Just the opposite of that. And when you say not false, it will be true. It will be true. Correct? So these are the things. Now the precedence is actually the first one precedence given is for and. But actually, when you use and or together, you use them in proper brackets. If you want to use and or together, you put those conditions properly in brackets. So there is a no case to define which one should be used first, which one should be used later. And I'll explain that also, how you need to put those conditions into bracket so that this problem does not happen, which one should be given priority. Because actually they have equal priority, so anyone should not be given a more priority over the other ones. Correct? And I'll talk about that also. Second one was logical operator. We will understand about their use case properly in tomorrow's session, starting tomorrow. Now we have this identity operator. What is this identity operator? This one is very interesting. Try to understand this properly. Let's see. What we were talking about, if I create a variable num is equal to num1 is equal to 5, and I create a variable num2 is equal to 5. What did I say? If two variables are there and for both of the variable there is a value 5. What happens in that case? First is Python will go into memory. It will create a container, and in this it will put a 5. And now there is only one container in which 5 is given. Now, if you are creating 10 variables, num1, num2, num3, num4, num5 till num10, you're creating 10 variables, 20 variables, 100 variables, does not matter. What happens is num1 is going to have the address of this box. Also, num2 is going to have the address of this box. This is what happens in Python. I discussed about this very properly yesterday. Correct? So that is what you check in identity operator. Are two variables identical to each other or not? What do we mean by identical? Do they share the same memory or not? That is what we mean by identity. So when you say num1 is equal to 5, num2 is equal to 5, they will be identical. So how do you check identity? You say num1 is that keyword which you use for checking the identity of any variables. And when you say num1 is num2, you will get a value either true or false. When you will get true, so true you are going to get in this case if both the variables are 5. So I was talking about a address. Do you remember, all of you who were there in the yesterday's session? You remember properly what address was? What was the whole concept of address? You remember? Okay. Now, let me verify that also, whether they have the same address or not, whether I was what I was saying is actually happening or not. You need to verify that also. So let's say I've created two variables, num1 and num2. And I have said that these two variables will have the same address, means the same address of a box in which 10 is stored. 2 times 10 will not be stored in the memory. Only one time 10 was stored, and these variables had the address of that. How do you check the address? You have a keyword ID for that. You say ID num1. This is the ID of that. And you check ID of num2. You see whether these two numbers are exactly same, which means that what is this number telling me? ID num1 and ID num2. It is nothing but it is the address of this location. Wherever this box is, wherever this container is there in the memory, where 5 is stored, where the value 5 is stored, or where the value 10 is stored. We are talking about 10. So wherever this is stored, you had the address of that, and this is that address. And you can see num1 is also having the same address, num2 is also having the same address. So you can say that if two person in real life, they have the address, same address, they will reach to the same house or not? Obviously, they will reach to the same house. This is the same concept that is used in Python to do memory optimization of the values. This is how variables are created, and this is how they save space. So identity just checks this concept, whether they both are pointing to the same variable or not. So this is going to happen when we make text. Text will also be same thing. If let's say, if I'm saying text1 is equal to Python and text2 is equal to Python. So Python will also be again stored in a box. And what will happen? The variable text1 is going to point to this box, and the variable text2 will have the address of this box. They both are going to have the address. So if you have a integer value, if you have a float value, or if you have a text, all of them are going to be identical in this case. All of them are going to be the same value, which will be taken by multiple variables. But there are some advanced data types. In that case, this thing will not happen directly. So what is that advanced data type? We'll talk about that properly in upcoming session. But one of those data types is called a list. And that list is something like this. You'll have this square brackets. Inside, you can put multiple items, not just one number. You can have multiple numbers, multiple text values you can have. And this is an advanced data type in Python, which is called list. So whoever has done little bit of programming, you must have heard about something called as arrays. Arrays you might have heard. So what you have arrays? Arrays are a collection of multiple values, multiple data. So list is also a collection of multiple data put together. And we will discuss about this, what it actually does in total. So when you are making a list, let's say you have created a list 1. You can take a look. X3 is a list in which I have created a list where I have 1, 2, 3. And Y3 is also the list which is exactly same. But when I check the check whether they are same, whether they are pointing to the same location, no. So in the case of these type of data, it will be created 2 times. But you say that, okay, if it is creating 2 times, it is taking more memory. How do I optimize this? How do I say that it should not take memory 2 times? It should only be created 1 time, like our normal variables are. We'll talk about that also. So this was the concept of identity. Whether 2 variables are same or not, we will talk about. We were talking about that identity. Okay, yeah, I'll surely share this file for you to go through it properly. Now, the next one is called assignment operator. So we are closer to the closing time for today. So I'll explain you these things, and they are very easy to understand. Just 1, 2 things are left. Can I take 10 minutes? Are you okay with that? I'll finish this. From tomorrow, we'll start a new proper topic. Correct? Just give me 10 minutes. Okay. Okay. Right. What is this assignment operator? These are very, very important things. That is why we have to do this. Yeah, all the classes will be available in Classroom, and I'll share you at the end of the session. I'll share you one LMS. We have a LMS also, where you can get the videos and all the text files properly. Just wait for a few minutes. I'll share that link also. Now, because in this LMS, I'm planning to bring more of the topics that will be related to data science, like machine learning, or the Python packages which are there for data analysis. All of that will be coming one after the other once this Python class is completed. Okay. What is assignment operator? Assignment operator is those things we have like this. So once we create num is equal to 10, correct? Num is equal to 10. So what we try to do is, if we have to increase the value of this variable num, so what we do in that case, we say something like this. We say num is equal to num plus 10. Correct? Now what will happen when I do an operation like this? So what is going to happen is, first it will do this 10 plus 10, and the value of this and the result of this will be stored back in the variable. So what we are trying to do is, when we say num is equal to 10, understand this very properly. We have num is equal to 10. I need to update the value of this variable. Instead of 10, I want any other value. So one easy thing I can do is, I can just say num is equal to 20. It will be updated with a new value. But let's say I can't do this operation. I have to do an operation like this, where it will be done, that you will also understand. Let's say I can't do this. So the way we update the value is by using assignment operators. So let's say I want to make this value 20. So I can't do this. What other option I have? I can say num plus 10. So when you do num plus 10, it will show us the value, but it will not update the value of num. It will still be 10. How we will get updated value? We need to say num is equal to num plus 10. We need to mention this thing, that num is equal to num plus 10. So whatever is the result of this operation, the result of this operation is 20. That 20 will again now come back and saved into this variable. So indirectly, we are trying to do this operation, not directly. So once we do this, now the value of num will not be 10 now, it will be updated to 20 since we have added something to that variable. Same thing, I can reduce the value of 10. So for reducing the value, I have to say num minus 10, num minus 5, let's say. So when I say num is equal to num minus 5, what will happen? The value of num will become 5 from here. It will become 5. If I, let's say, have to multiply with something. So let's see, the same thing will be done for multiplication, division, all of those things also. Let me show you. So one thing I can do this. Second thing I can do, num is equal to num minus 10. I can do this to reduce the value. I can say num is equal to num into 10. And I can say num is equal to num divided by, not only 10, I can have any value, like I can multiply it by 3. I can minus 5, anything I want to do. All of these are assigning a value to the variable. Advanced concept, like a little bit advanced way of assigning value to a variable by doing some calculation. Now, these same things can be written in different format. When you have written num is equal to num plus 10, that first line can be written like this. And this is followed in many programming languages, is num plus is equal to 10. When you're writing this num plus is equal to 10, what will happen? This is the thing happening. So either you can write like this or you can write like this also. But you need to remember this concept, because many times when you read code on the internet, you will see an option like this, or you will see the code in this format. So you need to understand what it is trying to do. Correct? And the second one you can do is num minus is equal to 10, num minus is equal to 5. And the third one is num multiply is equal to 3. And you have num divide is equal to 2. So the 4 things I have written here, that same can be written in this format. And that is the concept of assignment operators. These are called assignment operator, these options you are seeing. And they are very helpful. And you are going to see some things like this being done. And not just that, you can do other things also. Like you can say num is equal to, you have not just this, you had seen other things also, like you have seen num is equal to num floor of 2. This also we have seen num is equal to num of exponential of 5, these things also. So you have to just follow the same thing. Double is equal to 2. And if you want to do that thing, num star is equal to 5. So that is just a comprehensive way to write that. This thing, you can write it comprehensively in this format. And that is done using something called as assignment operators. So all of these options you are seeing here, plus is equal to, minus is equal to, these are called assignment operators. Very simple, straightforward.